study 12 gestures and facial expressions. What do you need to do? Use movements of the hands, the shoulders, or the entire body to express ideas, sentiments, or attitudes. Use the eyes and the mouth as well as the positioning of the head to reinforce the spoken word and to convey feelings. Why is it important? Gestures and facial expressions add visual and emotional emphasis to your speech. They may stir up your feelings and therefore enliven your voice. People of some cultures gesture more freely than those from other backgrounds. Yet, practically everyone talks with changes of facial expression and some form of gesturing. This is true both in personal conversation and in public speaking. Gestures were natural to Jesus and his early disciples. On one occasion, someone reported to Jesus that his mother and his brothers wanted to speak with him. Jesus replied, "Who is my mother, and who are my brothers?" Then the Bible adds, extending his hand toward his disciples, he said, "Look, my mother and my brothers." Matthew 12:48, 49, among other references. The Bible shows at Acts 12:17 and 13:16 that the apostles Peter and Paul also made spontaneous use of gestures. Ideas and feelings are communicated not only with the voice but also by means of gestures and facial expressions. Failure to use these well may convey an impression of indifference on the part of the one speaking. But when these means of communication are tastefully blended, the effectiveness of speech is greatly enhanced. Even when you speak over the telephone, if you make appropriate use of gestures and facial expressions, your voice will more readily convey the importance of your message as well as your personal feelings about what you are saying. Thus, whether you are speaking extemporaneously or are reading, whether your audience is looking at you or at their own copies of the Bible, gestures and facial expressions are of value. Your gestures and your facial expressions should not be taken from a book. You never had to study how to laugh or how to be indignant. Gestures should also express feelings that are within you. The more spontaneous your gestures, the better. Gestures fall into two general categories, descriptive and emphatic. Descriptive gestures express action or show dimension and location. In the school, when you are working on the use of gestures, do not be content with just one or two. Try to gesture in a natural way throughout your talk. If you are having difficulty in doing this, you may find it helpful to look for words that show direction, distance, size, location, or relative positions. In many cases, however, all that you need to do is to get absorbed in your talk, not worrying about the impression you are making, but saying and doing things as you would in daily life. When a person is relaxed, gestures come naturally. Emphatic gestures express feeling and conviction. They punctuate, vitalize, and reinforce ideas. Emphatic gestures are important. But beware. Emphatic gestures can easily become mannerisms. If you use the same gesture again and again, it may begin to draw attention to itself instead of enhancing your talk. If your school overseer indicates that you have this problem, try limiting yourself solely to descriptive gestures for a time. After a while, begin to use emphatic gestures once more. In determining the extent to which you should use emphatic gestures and the sort of gestures that are appropriate, consider the feelings of those to whom you are speaking. Pointing at the audience may make them feel uncomfortable. If a male in some cultures were to make certain gestures, such as putting his hand over his mouth to express surprise, this would be viewed as effeminate. In some parts of the world, it is considered immodest for women to gesture freely with the hands. So in those places, sisters especially need to make good use of facial expressions. And for a small group, sweeping gestures may be viewed as comical in almost any part of the world. As you gain experience and become more at ease in speaking, any emphatic gestures that you do use will express your inner feelings naturally, demonstrating your conviction and sincerity. They will add meaning to your speech. The expression on your face. More than any other bodily feature, your face often expresses how you really feel. Your eyes, the shape of your mouth, the inclination of your head all play a part. Without a word being spoken, your face can convey indifference, disgust, perplexity, amazement, or delight. When such facial expressions accompany the spoken word, they add visual and emotional impact. The Creator has placed a large concentration of muscles in your face, over 30 in all. Nearly half of these come into play when you smile. Whether you are on the platform, or are participating in the field ministry, you are endeavoring to share with people a message that is pleasant, one that can make their hearts rejoice. A warm smile confirms that. On the other hand, if your face is devoid of expression, this may raise questions about your sincerity. More than that, a smile tells others that you have a kindly feeling toward them. That is especially important in these days when people are often afraid of strangers. Your smile can help people to relax and to be more receptive to what you say. Points to keep in mind. The most effective gestures and facial expressions spring from one's inner self. Observe what others do, but do not try to imitate them in detail. Study the material for your talks until you know it well. Feel it, visualize it, and then use your voice, your hands, and your face to express it. Exercises. 1. Read Genesis 6:13-22. In your own words, describe the building of the ark and the gathering of the animals. Do not worry about details, simply tell what you remember. Use descriptive gestures while doing so. Ask someone to observe you and provide comments. 2. Talk as if you were witnessing to someone about God's kingdom and the blessings that it will bring. Be sure that your facial expressions reflect how you really feel about what you are describing.